This is Pat Soundbites Unplugged. Unplugged. The podcast where all the artists go to tell it as it is. Careers, music, tours, and more. And here's your host, the man that refuses to eat squid, Pat Calamari.
Hey, Pat Calamari here, and welcome to Pat Soundbites. Welcome to episode number 7. As we keep this podcast rolling down that track with great, incredible artists featuring new music, and this chat coming up is no exception. Recorded back on Wednesday, October the 9th. A lot of fun talking with Dirty Honey's lead singer, Mr. Marc LaBelle. Marc calling in from a beautiful day in Chicago, talking about his career, his awesome band, and at that time they were on tour, opening for Altered Bridge and Slash. Their self-titled debut EP was released in March. They were unsigned, and even with all that going on, their single, When I'm Gone, was number 1 on the Billboard rock charts. They recorded this EP down in the land down under in Australia. They did a great job, and I gotta say I'm pretty pumped and excited for fresh, new rock and roll music. And I will say that this band is the real deal. If I gotta describe to you their sound, I would think of it as like putting together an entree. Add a little Led Zeppelin into the blender, a little G&R, a little Black Crowes, a little AC/DC, and a dash of the Allman Brothers. Put it all in that blender, hit the mix button, and you get the rock and roll, blues, rock, soulful sound of Dirty Honey. They got good videos out with their tracks, When I'm Gone, Rollin' Sevens, awesome songs, Down the Road, Heartbreaker. I think one of my best is called Scars. And this last week, in the present, they announced dates and cities for their 2020 tour. You can go to dirtyhoney.com and check out all those upcoming dates for next year. Catch these guys on tour, buy their terrific debut album. They're getting ready soon to head back down to Australia and work on EP number 2. If you like what I'm doing, share it with your friends, download, and we're going to keep doing what we do right here on Pat Soundbites. Sit back and enjoy. Here's Mr. Marc LaBelle of Dirty Honey. WBXO Classic Rock Redefined in conjunction with Pat Soundbites Unplugged podcast. And a special edition on the Pat Show today, my favorite new rock band. I am honored and really excited to have the lead singer of this incredible band, Dirty Honey, Mr. Marc LaBelle, calling from Chicago. How are you, Marc?
I'm doing good. What an intro.
Yeah, man, I am, once Jody hooked me up, I'm like, I am all in. I've been playing tracks from your EP, your debut EP. The minute I got it, I just fell in love with everything. And certainly, congratulations, Dirty Honey became the first unsigned band to top mainstream rock song chart. I mean, do you pinch yourself, Marc, on, is this really happening?
Yeah, that was a bit unexpected this early in the game, but, we'll certainly take it, and, it just makes the workload even harder and heavier coming up here for the next single. So
yeah, no doubt. Do you contribute it, Marc, to, luck? I know it's got to be hard work, having the right folks supporting the music. How do you explain this?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything, and I harken back to the old days, and I hear, like, Mick Jagger say, like, he's the luckiest guy in show business and all this sort of stuff. So I think luck is obviously part of it, and without the hard work and the talent and the encouragement, too, along the way to keep doing it, I believe heavily that success is persistence yielding perseverance, right? So, it's not without a lot of hard work. That's for sure, but definitely some luck sprinkled in there.
Yeah, no doubt. How long have you guys been playing together? Has this been a group that, some bands have been doing it for 5, 10 years and finally get that break? But I think I read it was like you guys have been together for maybe a couple of years, if that.
Yeah, we're only like 2 years old, so.
Wow.
Yeah, but I've known John for a few years longer, and always wanted to do something with him, and it just needed the right group of guys.
No, you got to have that right chemistry, and certainly you guys do. I mean, listening to the tracks, I mean, it's a great music. You're a powerhouse vocalist. It's a very tight, polished band. You can just hear it. You can tell it. I can't believe I missed your gigs in New York. I was out of town, but a buddy of mine went down there and said, "Oh my God, you got to see these guys live. You just crushed it and knocked it out of the park." How did you come up with the name Dirty Honey? Where is that from?
Dirty Honey was it was kind of spawned from listening to a Howard Stern interview, believe it or not, and he was talking to Robert Plant about his side project, the Honey Drippers, and we I just sort of wrote this name down, and that was the genesis of Dirty Honey. It was pretty spontaneous, and it was just the best thing we had. So,
well, what a matchup! I mean, everybody's comparing, and you guys, the Zeppelin, the Aerosmith, the GNR, the Black Crowes, the AC/DC. So it matches well. I'm excited, as you hear in my voice, that it's fresh, new rock and roll. I mean, I know we have Gretna Van Fleet doing a great job, but when you hear fresh rock and roll, I mean, I think of your sound, great rock, a lot of soul, a lot of blues, a little dynamic of everything, southern rock maybe in there. So as you hear in my voice,
funny.
That's
it's funny. We get that sometimes, the southern rock thing, which I personally love. Along with all the stuff you just said, but that one stuck out to us a little bit as interesting. Because definitely like Skinner and the Allman Brothers and Tom Petty are huge influences on all of us, and it's just something that we didn't really hear that influence too much in ourselves, and that kept coming out, and we were like, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, right. That works for you guys, no doubt. Okay, there goes the 5-0 chasing somebody in Chicago.
Yeah, I think it's of course.
Sirens
echo through the tall buildings here.
So I imagine you guys are playing a lot of gigs in LA, playing a bunch of covers. Did you try and throw some originals out there? I mean, there's so many great bands, and it's so hard to get out there and, they've got the people dancing, got the people flowing, playing the covers.
Yeah.
And then the minute you say, hey, and this is one of our originals, everybody either goes to the bathroom or gets a beer. Did that happen for you guys as well? Or were people really like...
We stayed away from the Sunset Strip and doing like those sort of like 30-minute headlining gigs that you unfortunately in LA sort of have to pay for. They want you to pay like $1,000 to play at the Whiskey or the Roxy or whatever, and we were just like, that's not what we're in this for. Like we don't need. We'd rather just get good in some club or some bar, that's going to pay us. And, that meant playing a 4-hour gig. And when you do those 4-hour gigs, you play When I'm Gone up next to, like, Black Dog by Zeppelin or Whole Lotta Love or something. And people wouldn't leave, and they would dance through it. And then they'd come up to you after the show and be like, I'd love to hear, like, your original material. And it's like, well, we just actually played some, like, right before we played that Zeppelin song. And, like, nobody would know the difference. So it was kind of a struggle to get some acknowledgement for your original material without,
Yeah, without losing the crowd, right? Yeah,
so if you know you have something good in your back pocket that's original, you don't want to lose their attention by telling them it's original. It's very weird. So people just kind of assumed it was like a Zeppelin tune or an Aerosmith song or something, and and then we'd exchange info afterwards. They'd be like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Hey, whatever works and gets you out there. Do you remember I'm sure you do, but do you remember the first time you heard When I'm Gone on the radio?
Yes, I do. The first time I really organically heard it with no,
Nobody called you ahead of time and said, hey.
I was told they were going to play it on KLOS in LA one day, and I went out to the car and put it on, and that was really cool. That was amazing. That was so cool. And they were the first radio station to even play it on the air. After its release, they just sort of casually found it on their own. We had no idea that it was going to happen and everything. We were in the middle of Missouri somewhere and going to a gig, and everybody started hitting us up. Like, I think they just played Dirty Honey on KLOS, and then I called the station, and it was true. And it happened like 7 hours after the record got released digitally on Spotify. And
wow.
I was heading to the airport, actually, in Denver a few weeks ago, and it was like 5 in the morning, and I had the rock station on, and comes on. And I was like, did my phone just get plugged in or something here and automatically play my song? And I started flipping the dials, and it was Dirty Honey coming over the airwaves in Denver. So that was really special. I'll never forget that.
That is so cool. You guys recorded this EP in Australia. I mean, that's a pretty ways away from LA. And obviously it worked for you guys, and probably I wouldn't be surprised if you did it again. Maybe you need to get away from the big scenes. A lot of bands, technology is great, and the music world has certainly evolved. And now with people sending WAV files back and forth, I'm not a musician, and I talk to musicians every day, and that put out new stuff, and I go, do you do the WAV file thing, or do you go back to like when you first started in the 70s, the 80s? I mean, a little different for you guys, but I said I would want everybody in the studio together. I'd be afraid that I would miss that magic if Justin or John or Corey said, hey, let's try this or let's try that, You agree?
Yeah, no, that's a big sticking point. You go in there, you have some idea of what you demo the songs beforehand with each other, and you get them to a certain place, and then you sort of leave the last 10%, up to the producer and the studio spontaneity, and and we all do it together too. I think that's a absolutely essential part to creating rock and roll that is special, because we're out with Alter Bridge right now, and the guys in Alter Bridge are the rhythm section, at least the bass, drums, guitar, they are the rhythm section from Creed, and it's as that three-piece unit there is as identifiable when I listen to their music as Rage Against the Machine or the Stones or whoever. And then you throw a singer on there, and they've created that over years of working together in the studio. It's not an accident. And that's something that we hope to have. Eventually one day is just your own stamp on the music, where if an AC/DC record comes on, it's AC/DC the second it starts. They just have a thing. And you don't get that, you don't get that sending emails to each other, from coast to coast about songs and stuff. You got to do it together.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think you have an opportunity to miss the magic, to have somebody to go, let's try this or let's try that. As you mentioned, we're honored to have Marc LaBelle of Dirty Honey, which is crushing the charts and crushing the States on tour with the Skill and Altered Bridge. What have you been able to learn from Marc and Miles and those guys touring? I know you were with Slash, opening for Slash and The Who. What have they been able to, what advice as veterans in today's crazy music business have they been able to share with you, Marc?
Certainly with Slash, it's just like the fact that he doesn't take his foot off the gas is something that I've really come to learn about him and, admire, just because he is full go all the time. It doesn't matter if he's playing to 2,000 people or 100,000. That guy is putting all of his sweat and tears and, his effort into a show, which is really inspiring. And Miles too, is just Miles Kennedy is such a true professional, and he's such a nice guy, and he handles his fans and the job really with such grace, and he's certainly somebody I look up to. I love his career. He's done so many cool different things, and he's obviously an awesome singer. But yeah, he just lost his voice a couple weeks ago on tour, completely lost his voice, and he handled it so beautifully, and those are the little things you pick up on, and he takes care of himself, and he wants to be a great legendary singer, like all of us. So those are just some of those little tidbits you see him do, like he's always doing his warm-ups and he's getting rest, and it's not as much fun for a singer anymore on the road if you really want to be good. So
yeah, no doubt. I've had the pleasure of interviewing and meeting Paul Rodgers, Glenn Hughes, and I always ask vocalists, those guys, what's the key? What's the preventive measures that you take? I mean, Paul Rodgers is like velvet. I mean, Glenn Hughes, Mark Slaughter. I meet these guys and I say, that's your instrument. How do you do it night after night? And I'll share with you their tips. Is the number one was sleep. I mean, they all said you got to get at least 8 hours of sleep. And number two was dehydration. And today, some of the bands, they're able to get away with, the more national acts of not playing every night like it was in the 70s and 80s, where it was such a, I couldn't even imagine singing every night. Now, you can maybe get a break here or there, an off day, exercise, eat right, and stuff like that. Yeah. So
exercise, too, is a big one for me. I lived a very active lifestyle as a kid, and I still do. Like when I'm home, I play hockey like 4 times a week.
Oh yeah, a hockey player. I like that. A New York hockey player. Who's your team?
Yeah. Oh man, I'm a huge fan of the league, and I've always been a big Penguins fan since I was a little kid, and I've grown to be quite a great follower of the Rangers after living in New York City for a bit, and Henrik Lundqvist has become a good buddy of mine, and I just love watching that guy play, and I was a goalie when I was a little kid too, so sharing that with him, and he's a big music fan too, so like sharing that sort of kismet thing with him is really cool, and I'm pretty pumped for the Rangers this year, honestly. So I've always been a hockey player, and I got my son skating when he was 5, and we did so much travel up in the Capital Region. And all over. I'm an Islanders guy. Go figure. I don't know. I go to more Ranger fans because it's easy. I've been to the Coliseum plenty of times. I haven't been to Barclays yet, but I've been to the Coliseum many times, and watch the Islanders play. It's nice that their tickets are far cheaper than the Rangers, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, it's just easier for me to get on the train. My wife, oh my God, 20 years ago surprised me and got me partial season tickets to the Coliseum. And, it's an hour and a half ride. By the time I got down there, they were dropping a puck. I got a beer in my hand, and by the time I blinked my eyes, the game was over. And it was through the bad years where they got, crushed by Edmonton and everything. But that's cool. Glad that you're exercising, and glad that I'm so excited for hockey season. I'm happy it all started. I gotta ask, before I let you go, I gotta ask you about the tracks. I love all the tracks. Every time I listen to your EP, I don't know which is my favorite anymore. I think I'm falling in love with Rolling Sevens. But I'm a lyric guy, Mark, so when I'm gone, you're going to miss me when I'm gone. Down the road, Lord, I see you. Around town when we said goodbye. God knows I want you. Heartbreaker. You're just a heartbreaker. What you do to me. I mean, scars. You left me crawling. I mean, who is this chick? I hurt somebody's heart here. I mean, that's what I took. You guys, and you write about relationships.
It's just a young man yearning for love and affection and sex and his experience so far. Living in LA and traveling and. It's all the things, I think the song, honestly, that speaks to me the most is Scars, because it's just a song about life, really, and your mistakes not defining you, but maybe rather defining you for the better, and shaping who you are as a person,
Absolutely.
But yeah, there's just a lot of there's a nice art to the record in the way that the Black Crowes or Aerosmith or Zeppelin would make a full length record. I think our EP has some songs about sex, some songs about love and love lost, and certainly Scars is just a song about life. So it's I'm really happy with the way that the first 5 turned out, and we've been working hard to see what the next batch of tunes will bring us.
Well, I know I watched the video for Fire Away, and I love that, and I already listened to Break You, and I love that. and I know you're probably working on album number 2. And you're actually following the trend. If anybody ever told you, from what I see, is when I talk to musicians, I'm going, you didn't put out a whole album, and they go, you know what? I'm happy with the EP. I'm happy to put 4 or 5 out, and just as long as the label gives us that opportunity, that works for us. And I see more and more artists doing that. So I don't have a problem with you doing a 5 EP compared to you have to put out 10 songs.
I would love to do more. I just whatever is the right thing is what I want to do. I don't know if anybody really has the answer. We get, certainly a lot of people ask for a full length because we only release an EP, but it doesn't seem like anybody's upset that we only release an EP. I think people just want something new more frequently than not.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it's just got to be, whatever you put out's got to be great. So
absolutely, and such
it's not great, then nobody's gonna listen.
Yeah, and such the challenge of trying to get your tracks on the air and shared is a whole different headache. So if you got 10, man, you'd be happy to get 1 out there. So doing 4 or 5. Hey, if it works, it works. I support you. Before I let you go, Mark, what's the plans for 2020? I guess a new EP, and I hope a tour, because I can't wait to see you guys. I hope you come back to New York.
Yeah, we'll be swinging through New York, I'm sure. We're going to be touring again in January. Obviously, we're going to carve out a window to go back to Australia and make some more music. And we're in the cycle, man. We're touring, we're making records and making videos, and touring and making records and making videos, and that's what it's all about. And at the end of the day, it's really about going from city to city and playing shows and creating a connection with the audience, and sharing what it is that we do, which is high energy, balls out rock and roll with soulful melodies and big riffs and big hooks. So that's what we're trying to spread around the country, and I think we might be taking that to Europe at some point next year too. So
there you go. Well, you're definitely lighting the lamp. I normally say hitting the ball out of the park, but you're a hockey guy, so you're lighting the lamp, man, left and right, and I applaud you, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to chat with you. And I'll let you know, since I'm an independent and I can do whatever I want, I created a thing called 5 for It All. So I meet you guys before or after the show. You got a new EP out or an album out, and I have you roll 5 dice. And if you roll a 5 of a kind totaling in 3 rolls, I play your entire EP or album on my radio show.
I love it.
And I've done it with Alice Cooper, Billy Gibbons, Cheap Trick, 3 Doors Down. Oh, my God, everybody. And actually, I've been doing it for a year and a half. And just this June, Jesse Triplett from the great band Collective Soul got 3 4s on his last roll, and he's the first one to do it. And I just played their whole album Blood on my show, and I got to see the guys again and gave Jesse a plaque for being the first champ. And so you got to come back to New York, buddy, so we can get you to roll the dice and videotape it and have a blast.
There's no doubt we'll be there. That's my favorite city, so I will be coming back sooner than later, I'm sure.
All right, Mark. Anything else that we can help plug besides catching you on tour with Alter Bridge right now and buying your EP?
Check out that new Rolling Sevens video. It just came out, and people seem to be really enjoying it. So.
Yeah, the blonde on the motorcycle brings a lot of attention.
Of course.
All right, Mark. Well, I hope you enjoyed the chat as much as I have, and certainly congratulations on lighting the lamp and getting your music out there. I'm gonna continue to play the crap out of Dirty Honey. I love your music, and looking forward to hang with you guys and meet with you guys. You can check out Dirty Honey on your website, dirtyhoney.com, Facebook, Dirty Honey Music, Twitter, Dirty Honey Band, and on Instagram, Dirty Honey Band. You can get the EP on all your digital outlets or Spotify or iTunes. By all means, buy it, and check these guys out. Mark, have a great rest of the tour. Safe travels, and all the best to the guys.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, man.
Okay, Mark. Marc LaBelle, Dirty Honey, my favorite new band in rock and roll. We are WBXO, and we are classic rock, and we are redefined.